welcome to Conversations here on NTA. Thank you for joining us in the conversation room every single time. We see you and we hear you. All the comments on our social media platform, we'll be reading a few of them out. But before we do that, we'll be introducing our guest today in the conversation room. We'll start with you.
Chinwe. Hello, viewers.
Hello, viewers. Kevin Fineface.
My name is Devan, Mom.
Well, it's so nice to have all of you. And like I said, thank you for joining us every single time we're in the conversation room. Our social media handles have been on fire. So many comments on all the platforms. I'm just going to read a few out. One of them says, conversations with your guest Zainab is very interesting and educative, especially her herbal remedies and analysis, which has been very helpful. Thumbs up. That's from Ify. Thanks for sending in that, Ify. Another person, Ahmad Fati, says, yes, exactly. I love your conversation with Zainab. It seems the Zainab...
it's trending.
The Zainab episode is trending. Another person said, very educative programs, remarkable, natural, healthy proof from Madam Zainab, which is fantastic. Some people have asked for Zainab's comments, and we'll be sending that to you through the same channel that you used to contact us. Zainab also has a show on NTA. We'll be sending information about her show also later on. Someone said, today's talk, I guess on that day, on adolescent age was great. Nika, keep up the good work. Well, thank you very much, even though I'm not an adolescent, but I know quite a few people who are there in that age group. That was from Grace. Grace, thanks for sending in that message. Let me see. So many. Yes, someone asked that, who's the real anchor of conversations? And Chinwe, would you want to take that?
I'd say we are all anchors.
We're all anchors.
We're just trying to establish conversations and
Exactly.
hope that you start your own conversation out there.
Exactly. That's pretty much it. There's no anchor. We're all anchors. That's how conversation is. Today, we're talking about how to manage relationships with our in-laws. And I guess this is where Kevin comes in because, you know, I know you've been married. Like, how many years have you been married, Kevin?
12 years.
12.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's a
So I
good
guess
one.
you'll be taking the lead on this. How do you manage, you know, relating with your wife's in-laws? Has it been an easy journey or not so easy? A bit bumpy?
Well, looking at the ladies sitting around here, sometimes I felt like I'm a bit intimidated, but I'm blessed amongst women.
Yes, you
Yes,
are.
we can be your eye candy, not to worry.
I grew up in the midst of women, had about 6 women ahead of me.
Wow.
Yeah, and being the only born of my mother, and so kind of a bit spoiled, but not spoiled. In-laws, I wonder why it's difficult to manage in-laws. Before I got married, I made up my mind to make my in-laws my family. I found out that the society we live in hadn't actually educated us in the manner that we should be educated to understand that this other person on the high is also part of us.
Yeah.
Because the joy that comes with the peace of mind your spouse will have comes from the knowing that because you're taking this person away from where they're used to, the family they're used to,
Yes.
from the knowing that that hand of fellowship will still be extended. Once you're able to understand this principle and make effort to meet them where they are, you won't have any problem. They pray for your success. But
Right.
once you don't do that, they look forward to seeing their daughter or their son to come back home so they can get the best of the time they should have with the person. So for me, it's coming to terms with this reality and say, look, hey, these people are my people. And what I do for my mom or my dad is what I do for my father-in-law and my mother. Yeah, because if I'm not sincere to that extent, it means there's a way they will get to find out that the love I'm giving to them is tainted. And once people sense that what you're doing is not genuine, they intend to begin to, fight it.
Okay, let me just come in here. Can you really, the way I would treat my mom, can it really be equated to the way I would treat my mother-in-law? Can it really be equal? I don't know, Devan. It's not very equal, I have to admit. My mother carried me for 9 months. I don't think.
It's like this. Before for one thing, by the time I was 28, I was an orphan.
Oh.
My parents both, my mother died when I was 20 and then my father 8 years later.
Oh, sorry to hear
And
that.
from
So
all
sorry
the
about
horror
that.
stories you keep hearing about in-laws, particularly mothers-in-law, I always hoped and wished I would marry an orphan.
Right.
Yeah, I heard men say, oh, that is evil. No, I'm not saying I want to take a guy who has parents and then his parents should die.
Die immediately, yeah.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Right off the bat, I wanted to date and marry orphans like myself, so I wouldn't feel disadvantaged. And of course, when people hear you say that, it sounds like this one is an orphan, so she wants every other person's parents to die. No, for me, that wasn't it. I low-key started keeping my eyes out for people whose parents were already dead.
Really?
So that I wouldn't have to contend with the mother-in-law thing when I don't have a mother myself to run back to for help, consolation, advice, and things like that. And I come from a very small family unit, and my brothers grew up separate. We didn't grow up together, so I felt very alone, and I didn't want to marry a man who would have that whole family thing going on, and then I would feel ganged up against. And that was exactly what happened. Now, let me expatiate. I don't feel ganged up against, but my husband's parents are both alive.
Okay.
His mother is alive, his father is alive, he has 5 siblings. So they have the whole family setup going on.
Oh, yeah, they do.
And, we dated for like 3 years before we eventually got married. It had always been my policy that, okay, if I don't get an orphan, at least let me marry into a family that accepts me and welcome me completely, warts and all. And I'd always made up my mind that whatever the parents' outlook is, I don't really have a challenge. The dads are not really an issue. But if I'm dating somebody, he introduces me to the parents and the mother is cold, distant, shows that she doesn't like me right from day one, I'll really start evaluating that relationship.
Really?
And that was my, that was my mindset.
Yes.
And the good thing was the very first day he introduced me to his mom, she was this warm, wonderful, lively, very funny person. She, she has this quirky sense of humor, so we really get along. She'll be telling you the most deep, dark, terrible thing that has happened to somebody, but the way she'll express it will be so funny. I just start laughing. Sometimes I laugh until I cry. But, she doesn't get upset because she knows I'm not laughing at her. I'm laughing at the way she has expressed it. So we're actually a house on fire. We get along very well.
Okay.
And my husband's father is like, in Tiv culture, he's my husband.
Yes.
Same with
same with
my actual
my
husband
tribe.
is just
Yes.
it's just the baby maker.
Really?
So I get along really well with both of them. I have a wonderful relationship with my father-in-law, wonderful relationship with my mother-in-law. We get along very, very well.
Okay.
So.
Have you ever has there ever been a reason for them to live with you?
No.
No?
They do visit.
Okay.
They visit, they stay about a week, a couple of weeks and all that, but not like living with us. And we visit too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Devon, sorry. There's something you said, and it got me thinking, which is that oftentimes we have these stereotypes that we live life with or we grew up with. You had said until you get to meet someone who is an orphan, if you hadn't given room for, this beauty to come into your life, you wouldn't have actually received it.
True.
So we don't need to use circumstances, situations, or experiences to get into where we're going to.
It was a very flawed way of thinking because now I have a mother.
Yeah.
You see?
Now you do.
Exactly.
So now
exactly.
Individuals need to open up themselves.
Yeah.
Now, I find out that most times what has happened to us, getting into marriage is that we come with that bias. Maybe from experience, probably you have a dysfunctional home and you come with that bias that you see trace of it and you begin to fight it.
Right.
Rather than having the expectation that yours will be far better and work towards seeing that it's better instead of trying to fight and killing this whole thing. So
now that you mentioned biases, I had a friend of mine when we were much younger. She was always terrified about stories that she had heard about mother-in-laws, So she said to herself that in fact she doesn't want to get married to someone that has a mother.
A mother. Wow.
With the mother alive, So but as God would have it, she got married to a guy that had a mother, of course, and they have a beautiful relationship
Relationships,
together.
yeah.
So I think,
These
like you said, we
stereotypes
shouldn't,
are
yeah.
perpetuated by the movie industry.
Really, you think so?
You
No,
think so?
seriously, I mean it. I'm not saying that
To some extent.
every relationship it's not it's every stepmother is bad.
Yeah, but
Right.
isn't the movie industry, isn't what happens in
In
the
the-
movie, it's a reflection
it's
of what
kind of
happens
the society.
Yeah, but you see,
How many movies do you see that show a good stepmother
Stepmother.
or a good mother-in-law?
True.
You know what, let's just hold
And there are
that
many of
thought.
them.
Let's hold that thought. We'll be listening to people's opinions on whether or not they can live with their in-laws. Lots of people have different opinions on that topic. This is Conversations here on NTA. We'll be right back after this.
I don't see it as a very necessary for somebody who decides to stay with his family, to stay by the in-law. It will cause some complication, at least a major complication in a marriage. You cannot stand as a man to decide for your family. You still live by the advice of the parents who gives you their wife, and it will later affect the growth of your family, the growth of your family. And in another way round, there will be some complications in the advice given to the wife from the parents. Maybe people from the wife side will mostly favored, and the advice that will come with anything that will mostly favor from the wife side.
My in-laws is such an impossibility to me. Perhaps based on my tradition, based on where I come from, I can't. It's such an impossibility. These are people that I ought to accord to the highest respect. Like, I should respect them maybe to an extent greater than I do for my own parents, because I must have lived with my parents, I'm living with them, and I've been very much free with them. So for my in-laws, I can't even expect myself spending even a week in their house and up to talk more of living a whole life with them. No, I can't.
Well, it depends. As long as they don't give me problem, it's no problem. I can live with them. I can cope with them. As long as they don't make life miserable for me, there's nothing bad in it. But it depends on how you can relate with them. If they don't pose any problem to my marriage.
I would not like to live with my in-law after marriage. Yes, and I have some of my reasons behind it. The total respect may not be there because you are living with them. There are some things that they may do that will not warrant you to tolerate because they gave you their daughter to marry. So if really you need that total respect, you need to distance yourself from them.
Yeah, possible. I can live with my in-law after marriage. The reason is that we define marriage as a union between the man and the woman. If you get married to your wife, the relations of the wife becomes your relations, and the problem of the wife become your problems. And so I can stay with them without a problem.
Live with my in-law after marriage. Wow, this is interesting. For the African setting, before the Civil War, that might be, because the setting is some sort of traditional setting where you have father, mother, cousins, everybody within the same community. But in a modern state like we are now, honestly, it's not visible. It's not acceptable, and I'm not sure it's attainable. My reasons are this. One, as a man, you are expected to show forth the credibility status of being a man, to be responsible for yourself, your wife, and by extension, your wife's brothers, sisters, uncles, or whatever. But at the time you decide to stay back, even if they provide for you, honestly, you lose the value of being the head of the home. I assure you, within the trend of 2 months, there are unbearable circumstances that will come your way. And if you are this humble, docile, meek type, you keep stomaching Nick and acting as a slave in the house. But the real position of a man is that when you get married, take your wife to your house, even if it is one small room somewhere. Even if she's wealthy, her in-laws, your in-laws are wealthy. Credibility for the state of your marriage requires that you begin small somewhere.
Yes, of course. They will help me now. For example, my mother-in-law. In fact, my mother-in-law was so close to me, even more than my mother, when I got married. So why wouldn't I live with my in-laws? And my father-in-law loved me too. They are there like my brothers and sisters. So what I will gain from my brothers and sisters, I'm getting it from them.
It's not advisable for you to live with your in-law after the marriage. So you, as a husband, you have prepared a place which you are going to put the married wife into, which two of you will now live as a happy family. So you staying in your family house the in-laws house, doesn't make any sense. It's a kind of disrespect, and it's low the dignity of the man. That is, you are not capable of your responsibility.
So that's it. We've heard from the people whether or not you can live with your in-laws. For me, I think it's a bit of 50-50. Some days, yes, and some days, no. Chinwe, I know you still have some feedback from our social media that you want to read out to us.
Yes, we do. And this is from our Twitter handle. And at Gilly, still single, but I must confess, I was not just educated yesterday, but also blessed. I got so many answers to my questions. Kudos. Thank you, Gilly. At that Lawal was indeed captivating with germane topics of single parenting and cost cutting. Thumbs up. At Alutadaf, Chinwe, Nike, Rikiba, and Zainab Sharif. Interesting topic. Great presentation. Like Zainab advised, At Conversation is a program to watch.
That's nice.
You bet it is. At Alutadaf again, faith in God is the biggest remedy for grief. The acknowledgeable woman on Conversations, care for the elderly. At Oh Mike for Real, enjoying the conversations. Thank you very much, everyone. So this is from our email feedback as well. And that's from Kayode Ayodele. He says, hello, thanks for the encouragement. More grace. Please, can I get Z email? Well, we'll link you up with Z if you send us your number. So please send us your number. We'll link you up. Thank you.
Okay, so like Devan said just before the break that she feels the movie industry has, I don't know, villainized this mother-in-law role so much so that people are now scared. You know, you're scared of having the mother-in-law come into your house or taking your husband and his attention away from you as a married woman.
Yeah. It's not, and you also made the point that but doesn't the movie industry build on what is already, in society? Going on? Yeah. It is true. But, it's just like working in the news. Good things happen, but it's the bad stuff that gets hyped up.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I have heard real-life stories of the mother-in-law straight from hell. They exist. It's not a myth. They're out there.
Right.
But how come you rarely ever get to see that saintly mother-in-law. That mother-in-law who is actually the one berating her son on your behalf.
Right.
You don't get, and they exist too.
They do
It's
exist.
like this myth of every Nigerian man keeping a bevy of mistresses. It's not true.
Well,
many do, but there are also lots
Some
of
do.
married men who truly cherish their marriages
wives,
and
are dedicated
don't
to their
jump around
wives.
the place.
Yeah.
But you hardly hear that story. It's this constant narrative of the Nigerian man who cannot stay in one place that just gets played, and then the stepmother who is so bad and evil, and yes, they all exist. But there's also the other side of the story. There are good mothers-in-law, there are bad mothers-in-law.
Right.
And there are people, and then, of course, again, before I got married, there was a point when I genuinely didn't want to get married. I had heard that everybody who is married doesn't want to be married anymore. They want to leave. It's hell. It's this. They're just gritting their teeth.
So many horrible stories out there.
And I'm like, what? If it's that bad, why don't you want to be part of this shit? You know, excuse my French. But I've come to realize now that I'm married that there are good days, there are bad days, and there are in-between days.
Exactly.
And if you have good and in-between, that's already 70%.
Right.
So I can't get to 30% that isn't working. It's
Right.
like any other relationship.
Yes, very true.
So if you, I think it's about mutual respect.
Right.
You know, if you marry into a home where they didn't already have issues with him marrying you, you already have a good base from which to start. That's my take.
True.
But if there's already Ishibo, this one is house out. As mundane as that sounds, it can be a real issue.
Yeah,
That's
true.
true.
It's
you.
true.
Very true.
You know what? As you were speaking, Devan, something came to mind. In my own culture and tribe, we say "kosikekeriano," which means there is no small in-law and there's no big in-law. They're all your in-laws. They're all your husband, in quotes. So there are situations where, let me just use an example. Let's say my husband's sister is much younger than me, but I am expected to call her auntie or sister. You know, so you know, for some people they're like, oh no, I can't. I have friends that are like, well, you know, even if she's my in-law and she's my sister-in-law, I still call her by name. But you know, these are the small issues that affect relationships because you know your mother-in-law is expecting you to call her daughter auntie, even
And you're like 10 years older.
and you're
than
10
her.
years older than her. I mean, why should I call her auntie
It's
when
a
I'm
cultural thing.
clearly older than her?
Because it's cultural, you can't really,
Is
you
it?
know, like escape it completely. You know, so it becomes an issue.
Well, listening to you ladies, sometimes I get carried away with the stories you're giving. Your conversations are like so ripe and all of that. I think the society has a role to play. What I mean, the society, us, families. What are the lessons, the skills we're giving to our children as they grow up? Because they're going to be husbands and wives to other persons that become, they'll have in-laws. How prepared are they to get into receive the in-laws? As much as we have had the experience, we get into life with the bias from the experience of yesterday, without expecting that life could be better. I mean, I always believe that there are good things that can happen.
Have you ever had your in-law live with you? Let me just
Yes.
let me clarify that.
Yes,
your mother or your father-in-law.
My mother-in-law, you know, lived with us for a few period. Now, here's the thing.
How brief was this period?
I think for some months, and I never had any issues to quarrel or anything. No, it's just that sometimes the lack of understanding from my wife, you know, sometimes creates that conflict.
Okay.
I made mention earlier that what I do for my mom and my father is what I do for them when it comes to financial support. If I'm sending money home, I don't get to do this lopsided thing. Of course, family is family. I know I have siblings who also take care of my parents. You know, they do that. And if I get home, I need to do what I need to do with them. I sit down with my father-in-law and we play and we laugh and do things together. It is difficult for some to see that this is real because of the societal bias that we have. Because you are expected. I give an instance. I tried to play with my mother-in-law at a certain time. It was viewed differently because someone felt that I shouldn't be playing the way I was playing.
Hang on, let me just ask this question. Are you from the same
That was my
ethnic
question.
group?
Are you from the same
Tribe?
No, I'm Kalabari. They are Izon, which were like a Jaw tribes. Yeah,
From
sort
the
of
same state?
different state, Bayelsa River State.
Okay.
And so it looks like, oh, okay.
So it seemed like you were being rude.
Yeah, it seems like, no, someone said, it looks like you're supposed to relate to this person with this kind of big thing.
Awesomeness. She's, yeah.
No, but
okay.
if I can sit and laugh with my mom, why can't I laugh with my mother-in-law?
Right. See, these are the issues.
You know. So sometimes the understanding of the individual matters a lot. That's why I said the society needs to begin to re-educate itself on how to manage this thing. Because I'm telling my daughter right now that you need to learn to understand the way you are and relate with every individual as a God factor here on earth. Because if we relate with that benevolence, we'll have problems. I currently, relate to people from a pitiable disposition. So before you begin to get me offended, I look at it and say, yeah,
I feel sorry for you.
I feel sorry for you, sort of. And it helps. Even with my home, it helps with my relating with my wife now. Prior to this time, it wasn't there because I wanted to assert my position because society taught me so to assert my position.
You're the man.
As the man of the house.
But currently, I'm more like the woman rapper. It's better for me, to act like the woman rapper. They say, if I have a committee of friends that would say you have to join the Association of Women Rappers, and that's because we have come to realize that there's no need fighting to destroy that which you're supposed to build.
There are obnoxious in-laws like that. They want to throw their weight around, especially if the man has money.
Yeah.
It's my brother's money. You are seeing like some kind of collateral damage kind of person who is just coming to reduce the commonwealth, like you're adding no value to the whole picture. So there's all this business. Especially the sisters. I don't have sisters-in-law. And my brothers-in-law.
You look like you're happy about
my brothers-in-law. Okay. But I have seen all these scenarios where the whole chest popping thing is happening because my brother is the federal commissioner of God knows what.
Right.
And it's up to that spouse to put their siblings or whoever it is in check. There's a reason you married. I couldn't select you to be my brother or sister. It just happened. I selected this person to be my life partner. So there's a difference in that relationship. You are blood. No matter how much I hate you, you're my blood. But I selected this person to be part of my family. He or she is now one of us, and I'm not going to stand for you disrespecting them just because you feel like there's blood. By virtue of that marriage, she is now a member of this family, regardless whether we're sharing the same DNA.
But Ivan, how many men are doing that?
But
how many
men
I think that's
where the problem.
Whether men or women.
There are women watching conversations right now. I'm like, I just wish someone could tell my husband this. I just wished my husband was watching conversations right now. Because these are real issues, and it's happening to many people, many families. They have in-laws coming and barging in, just literally taking over. And I mean, sometimes in the worst situation, when the man dies, we all know how these stories go. We all know how these stories go. The in-laws even become worse. These said in-laws that were bad before, they turn to worse.
I think I have a problem with, the third-party, relations, where you have the brothers, the sisters, even the parents-in-law, coming in and dictating how, that family should be
run. How it
should be run, and that I think that's what causes a lot of friction and miscommunication and hatred. You just said, because I mean, what is marriage really? How should it be run? It's between man and wife. So I don't believe that anybody from outside should come and have a say, whether you're related to the person or not, whether you're a best friend or not, And and I think another thing that I realized, is sometimes the men don't really stand up and say, no, this is how it should be.
That's true.
And then other times, the men say, okay, maybe between husband and wife, let's say father-in-law and mother-in-law, they talk, maybe they're gisting or maybe gossiping maybe about their daughter or their son and the family. And then the man says this. Most times, it's the men that push, I believe, that push the women to go and say, this is our stand, or, and then the man is in the back seat.
Looking like the good
Looking
boy.
like the good person. Okay. And then that's why, I feel that's why most women are seen as,
villains.
Exactly. They're seen as the terrible mother-in-law because she's the one out there. Meanwhile, the man has been, from behind telling you,
pushing her ahead.
Go and do this.
Yeah. I'm concerned about things like finances. Sometimes your parents-in-law might not be as affluent as your own parents. So when you were talking about finances and you've been married, I think longer than 12 years. Do you, when you send money, do you send the exact amount of money to your parents and your parents-in-law?
Yes.
Does that work?
Yeah, that's what I do.
And that's
And the needs different.
Actually.
No, there's once it is deliberate to send them money, it's always on the flat rates. Except, of course, there's a special need. Of course, there's a special need.
Yes.
You know, like my mother is on drugs currently, so from time to time I send them money, you know, for that purpose.
But you have 5 other siblings that are also sending money.
Yeah, there are other 5 other siblings that send money, but because you always want to have that relationship to prove. See, my father taught me something. My late dad has a lot of money, doesn't need anybody's money. Okay, but whatever you send to him becomes valuable to show the respect and value that you have, the thoughtfulness you have towards him.
Right.
So he receives and blesses you for it.
Right.
Okay.
Now, for those who don't have an understanding, say he has enough, he doesn't need it, miss out from the blessing that comes with the Father's blessing.
That's right.
Okay.
So we need to understand this. Yes, I do a flat thing, but I also don't also forget the fact that this is my mother who has gone through this process. Why on earth should I abandon a mother that's not only 9 months, but ensured that I am where I am today?
Today, yeah.
I shouldn't do that. In fact, it is in the best wisdom for my wife to understand that this is the woman that has a better part of me before she came into the picture, to extend the love, ensuring that I do what I'm supposed to do for her. The reciprocity comes in when I see her doing that.
Right.
Now, sometimes when she doesn't do that, as human, I intend to also not want to do the same thing, because I get reaction. Oh, you've not called my mom, so it means I'm not going to call your mom. Things like that happens.
Right.
But I also need to tell myself I can't allow some other person else to deform me. I should be the person I'm supposed to be, and do what I'm supposed to do, that I have the privilege to do. Society often has actually taught us something different. And so the recruitment process, for all of this we're saying now, there's what I call the recruitment process.
Okay.
How did the conversation begin before the relationship started? Were there introductions? Were there a point made? When a guy gets to marry into a family that's far less than him financially, there's always that thinking that the woman is coming to take over from all of that.
Yes.
And she, because there's that thinking, also comes prepared to prove that she has married this guy and it's for me, nobody should come around this place, which is wrong.
Yeah.
We should create room to allow for extensions to take place. Reach out to your people out there, extend that arm of fellowship, empower somebody, do those things. If you're doing those works, and if the man gives the woman the grace to help the family, they will embrace her so well. But what happens is that because we have, in Africa, there is a chauvinistic thing, the man wants to be seen as the man in charge. So he goes ahead to do these things without the wife doing anything, not knowing she had encouraged him to doing it.
Exactly.
But because he didn't communicate that.
Exactly.
So people just think that she's the one stopping him from doing those things. I've seen family members that I go to their homes and the wife doesn't necessarily welcome me as much as she should have welcomed me as an in-law. She sees me as someone that, oh, this guy is coming too close to my husband and all of this. So what I do every day, I tell my brother, look, hey, this is your family. You can't use me to score points.
Right.
So I go there, I show her the respect I need to show to her, and I walk away without showing anything that I'm not happy with the way I'm treated. I just know how to manage that so that they can be happy with their relationship. So we need to begin to see how we can blend these things and, you know, get the best of life. Let me ask us this. What are we living on earth for? This life is too short to die young. See, today I lost a friend, and I'm so pained. The wife was just crying so bitterly and all of that. You see, moments they've shared together would have been so lovely.
I know.
Right? So we can't be going with this resentment, bitterness, and all of that.
Every minute that we have together really counts.
It's precious.
Yeah,
There should be
Let's
love.
maximize it.
There should be respect.
We'll take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll be talking about the influence of third parties in marriages, in relationships.
I have an interesting story with regard to that.
Yeah, okay, so when we get back.
I think when it comes to third party, when the woman begins to transfer the love they have for the husband, for their kids, that's why I have a problem with it.
He's talking from the heart.
These children are not adopted. They're your DNA.
However,
I really don't get where that jealousy comes
children,
from.
third parties or not. We'll talk more about that when we get back. This is Conversations on NTA.
When there's a child out there that's not getting the same that your own child is getting, the difference will tell, and there will come a time in the society where that child is going to take its pound of flesh.
Where you can actually, everything from watching a program with the child, you can start up the conversation from something on the TV and say, oh, you know.
For me, it's like, hurry up with this business. And the other one said, Auntie, it's not about me, it's about the guys. They're not ready to marry.
Yes. So if she wants to ask something, no, I know my mother very well. In fact, the most interesting one is when I put up pictures on WhatsApp, you know, Snapchat filters and all that, she will call me, remove that picture. There was a day I got tired of all that and I said,
Okay, so we're back in the conversation room, and what we're talking about now is whether or not third parties have that much of an influence in marriages. Well, third parties, we're still, the jury is still out. Are children third parties or not?
That's a tricky one.
I think the children are third parties. Anybody who is not the man and the wife is the third party, in my opinion, including the kids. Of the two of you. Sorry, I'm not backing down on this.
Oh, really?
If I hadn't met and married your daddy, would you have happened? And so you are third party.
Right.
Let's not even debate down.
I do hear these things, you know, Chinwe has said it, the man and wife. You have said it, the man and wife.
Yes.
Why man and wife? Why not husband and wife?
Okay, husband and wife. Actually means that's corrected.
Yeah.
We stand corrected.
You know, because I mean, you make the man to be that single. You know, there's no grooming ground for men in this part of our world.
No, there isn't.
There's no grooming ground.
No.
Men just happen to know what they know by virtue of experience.
Yeah.
And they pay the price for it.
So do women, though.
Women
more
are
effort is put into grooming women.
You're right.
So we need to change that narrative. So that's why we're having issues in the society, because people don't understand that men also do cry. You know, they say you're a man, be a man, brace up. No. What makes you a man is your ability to also tear.
Right.
You know, that's what makes you a man. Now, when you talk about third parties, right, the relationship between the husband and wife is not something that should be contested by anybody or anything. Yeah. Understand this. As a wife, you need to know that your husband is first a boy, then he is a king. So you feed the boy.
He's the boy king.
So you feed the boy in him, and respect the king that he is.
I like that. I agree with you.
Once you do that, your queenship becomes easy.
Yeah.
Because then he plays with the girl and gives the queen a place in his kingdom.
Okay.
So the kids, the love which you have for both of you will be the extension that the kids will enjoy.
Right.
So there won't be competitive, competitive advantage, in trying to love one another, love the kids, because you see what happens once there's a transference of this love to the third party. The mother will corner the kids from time to time to show how much she loves them so much. Then the father is trying to bring discipline. And every now and then he hides his own shield of love under the guise of discipline. So the mother becomes preference to the father.
To the father, yes.
Do you know that sometimes the reverse is the case, where the mother is the person trying to instill discipline?
Yeah, sometimes.
And daddy is trying to be good boy and just bringing candy and letting you do everything you want to do.
Do you know why I feel that happens? Because the father feels, well, I'm not home long enough, so the short period I home that they're awake, so time with me should be fun. So I should always be seen as the fun parent, and then the mom is now stuck being the villain there. Yes, essentially.
Yeah.
That's true. And so some mothers become Margaret Thatchers, and some fathers becomes Hitlers, to the kids. And so once there's any problem, once they get matured, they tend to gravitate towards the mothers, confide in the mothers, do everything, and the fathers are like, okay, you guys are back, how you guys, and all of that. We can change all of that narrative.
Yeah, we can.
And that is that both parties need to come to that consciousness that, look, this love that we have between us, nothing comes in between.
In between, yes.
Not for the kids. If a woman
for some women, I'm so sorry, but for some women, that is hard. when the baby is there, the baby's crying, the baby needs me, the baby needs diaper change, the baby is, it's a 24-hour project.
I think at that point, I think it depends on the scenario.
I had twins. It was hard to break out, and it's so funny that we should be talking about this. When we got home from the hospital, what my mom told, the very first thing she told me was that, try and make time for your husband. His food, make it yourself. This is twins, in the cots and everything. Try and make time for your husband. His food, you know, just making sure he's dressed well. Just the little things, it matters. Don't get all carried away with twins. But it was hard.
Being one child is difficult. I think at this point, I think it also depends on the circumstances, you know, being played out. For instance, you know, you have 2 kids. I think at that point, the man should step in.
Understanding.
Thank you. The man should step in and see
for
how
that
he
period,
can. Yes, for
3
that
months,
period.
6 months,
I have a problem with some men who don't have that understanding
yeah.
that this woman is going through this phase.
Exactly.
She's lactating, and so she needs some form of support.
Exactly.
And it's because the men are not actually groomed for it.
No grooming school.
There's something we need to know. The men are straight jackets, unilateral roots guys. Once the thought comes from there, they don't care what happens and whether the environment want to go through it. But I believe that with conversations, right, and you have this effective communication, she's able to tell him way ahead of time her state of being.
Yes.
And empathize with him.
Exactly.
What happens where the men tend to want to show that macho thing because she hasn't been able to communicate, look, this is what I'm going through. She's not empathizing with his cause and say, is that all you think of every now and then? I'm busy, talking about it. You know, that's what you're thinking of. Please get out of this or use some things. It feeds cow. See, once a man begins to get withdrawn, it becomes repulsive. So we need to treat, that's what I say, you need to treat the boy, feed that boy.
But hang on, let me come into this. You know, every time I hear men bemoan how the woman, since she gave birth, her entire attention is on the infants and all, it actually rubs me up the wrong way.
Okay.
Because there's no rule on this planet that says you can't chip in and help. And if you're helping her, she is not, I have looked after a child. Waking up 3-4 times at night is not fun.
Benny.
Infants have this thing they do where they'll wake up 5, 6, 7 times at night, then sleep soundly during the daytime.
Yeah, I know that.
When you're running around cooking and sweeping and cleaning up and everything. And the last thing you want to do is socialize.
In any form.
In any form. Then never mind what is going to happen in the other room subsequently. Now, if the man manages to step down off his high horse, help with 1 or 2, if the baby is going to wake up 4 times, please handle 3.
Yeah.
Wait. Or even 2, 7.
She's not done. Let me land. Handle 3. Because you know what? When you head off to the office, madam will be home, cooking and cleaning and changing other diapers, cleaning the house, tidying up, cooking every markets, God knows what, especially if she doesn't have help. So while you're working in the office, which essentially entails sitting at a desk, she is running up and down, dusting, sweeping, cooking, going to the market, and all this. And you are not superwoman. You're a human being. You're flesh and blood. You get tired.
Beautiful.
So if Nigerian men could form the habit of, let me help out with just 40% of the chores. And you know what?
Let me take my plate to the kitchen
what is even
when I'm
more
done.
Frustrating, is the men who will institute one rule that you will not have a maid.
I don't
because they are read in the papers that maids do juju and witchcraft. I don't mind though. You will help me with washing.
Exactly.
You will go to market. Me, I will cook and clean house. Are we agreed? No. So what do I do?
Good question.
So, you know, on some level, Nigerian men still think that a wife is just one step above.
Not Nigerian men. Some men.
A large number of Nigerian men still think.
Some men.
A large number of Nigerian men still think.
No, some men.
Let's agree with you that a wife is just a housemaid with benefits. Yeah.
Some also say that.
You're supposed to cook, clean, sweep, go to the market, go to work, come back, look at the kids. Do this and not get tired.
I see on the other room, right?
Yeah, of course. You don't get tired. If you do get tired, okay, mistress comes into the picture. Or maybe we can have 5.
See, there you go.
Why do you think it's so? Society had made it so. And I said earlier, and I said, just to corroborate your story
now,
we
need to evolve from that.
That we need to begin to educate. I have a 9-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter, who's going to be 11 by December. They all do home chores. My boy cooks, my girl cooks. Why?
Great.
if she's working, doing anything in the kitchen, he must be there to assist her. If I can't groom him now, when am I going to groom him?
Good.
Parents need to begin to see this thing as a responsibility that needs to be inculcated in the lives of our kids so they can grow with it.
Yeah.
Society has told us, we saw it, our mothers are the ones doing all of the works and still come back at night, the man whines in the night like a cat and she still gives him what he wants. No, it shouldn't be so.
Like a cat.
Yeah, it shouldn't be so. It is seen that the woman is that powerful being that can be multitask and all of that. But
You're saying we
age and
act
time
like we can do it all?
where, yeah, we live in an age and time where the woman does not necessarily sit at home doing nothing anymore. That she goes out there doing what she's doing. Her brain works every now and then. She needs to relax. She needs to rest. So the man needs to also show help. If you want to have it good, extend a hand of fellowship.
That's what I'm saying.
If you want to have it good, see,
please tell them.
The moment that you're going to have that whining moment comes in. If you don't do the right things first from the early moments, if you don't start your romance from the beginning, ask her what you do, how you can help. Even when you're not prepared to help, say, sweetheart, is there anything I can help you with?
And half the time we're going to say, no, don't worry.
No, don't worry. Because you don't want to be seen like you're not capable of doing it.
The fact that
you know, too, I also want the women to begin to learn to communicate effectively. Try to let your spouse to know where you need him to help. Say it in nicer ways, you know, so that you do know, if you don't mind. Because sometimes I can ask you to leave my room, and it looks like I just ask you to just leave gently. And I can ask you to leave, I'm insulting you. Some women, they easily domesticate the men. You can't domesticate your husband. No. Allow him to domesticate himself for you. Because once you do that, he will revolt. Yes, it will.
Okay, so
like
give us a practical example.
No,
give
a practical.
Okay, honey, tell us what do you want to hear?
It's simple. You know, sometimes my wife could just sit down and we're just talking like, you know, she's so tired, and she had this to do. She's basically telling me that she needs help.
That's so
I just pull out my antenna of wisdom. It's okay. I think you need to rest. Don't force yourself to do what you cannot do now. What I've done, I'm also avoiding some of those things you want me to do.
That was what I was doing.
Okay. Then what I now do is to look for a way to do what I can do. Then other times I just wake up and do what I can do. But once I am domesticated, then of course I will revolt. Don't expect that this is what I'm supposed to do. Except both of us others will sit down and agree that this is our responsibilities.
Okay.
Then that is okay because we have agreed, mutual agreement, we must respect it.
Right.
But that isn't done, and you expect that, this guy should be doing this, and you have already allocated my chores.
No, it's
so it's like shaving my head.
It's not a
in
Nigerian thing.
Yes.
It's not a Nigerian thing in code, but you see, society needs to begin to change from things, that Nigerian thing. Society evolves.
Yes.
Right?
I agree.
Why can't we live in the now? You do a 9-to-5 job. I do maybe a 9 to 6 or 8 job, and I expect you to come back and everything is okay.
Yeah,
Why can't you plan it? Exactly. Why can't you do the cooking when we're supposed to do, and put these things in the freezer and get things done? Why can't you look for help? One needs to be.
You're one of the.
That's it.
Yes, on behalf of 20% of Nigerian men. Men want the food from the branch to the plate. So this freezer talk.
There are some men that will tell you that they're not going to eat food that stayed overnight.
Thank you.
Yes.
And what's going through my mind is, do you know what you're eating in that restaurant, sweetheart?
There you go.
You know, some men believe that,
to the plate. That's what most men want.
Stereotypically being so biased, they wanted the woman to be, in quotes, the glorified maid.
Right.
So they see her, she's just a tool. She's his property. Well, look, why don't you stop taking bride price?
That could help.
Because see, the man goes and pays the bride and buys his property.
Yes, that's
fallacious, because we need to do some kind of research to prove that women who the people did not collect bride price are being treated better.
No, they are not. They are not. I only just said that they are not.
In my own tribe, they don't. The family doesn't even collect it. They give it back to the bride and groom. When
they
say open it, use it to open.
My father said
that's your children. Yes, exactly.
You know, that doesn't really work. But I'm only saying that we can change some of these stereotypes. You know, because see, I see things. I grew up wanting never to get married. Yeah, I said I wasn't going to get married. I wasn't going to have any issues because coming from where I was coming from, the background I was coming from was a polygamous background. And I didn't like what I saw. I said I wasn't going to get married. But getting to church and all of that, my psychologist changed. And I thought, it's the best thing that can happen to you. Why don't I think that I can have the best of marriage? And you got married and like a year after, like, really? Is that what I got into? I need to get out of this thing. But no, you have to walk it.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? You can only do that by effective communication. when it comes to, you know, chores, when it comes to romance, when it comes to finances, there has to be room for effective communication. What is the vision of the family in terms of your romance? How do you want to spend the best of your times together? If that is not communicated, because sometimes we think we are soothsayers or psychic beings. The woman needs help. Maybe at that particular time, her emotional state has been so down, she needs a good massage. Maybe. But she wants to act like she's hard. She can walk. Force feed her. You know, we do that with our babies. When the babies don't want to eat the kind of food we want to give to them, we force feed them. Sometimes women need to be force fed. Because when you do it right, they're happy for it. And thank you for it. So why can't you do the same? Men need to begin to understand. Let's give room for men to be well groomed. So we can have a better society, because when you have a well groomed man, be sure you're going to raise good kids.
Right. Yeah. Going back to the third party issue, what about these family units where your friend, for instance, your best friend, comes in all the time, you tell him everything, you don't talk to your wife as much as you talk to your best friend? That also affects the marriage. It affects the relationships in the marriage. So it could be his best friend, it could be my best friend, but it's affecting the marriage. That happens a lot.
Yeah, but even apart from best friends, you know, when we first mooted this bit about third parties, I said there's an interesting story.
Yeah.
I want to, you know, when you go for marriage classes and things like that, you're seriously discouraged from confiding in third parties.
Very much so, yes.
As a human being, I've come to find that that's one of the most difficult pieces of advice to keep. You will need to talk to somebody sometime.
That's not your spouse?
That is not your spouse.
Really?
Yes.
Especially when it is your spouse that has gotten on your wrong side.
Exactly.
You're not going to go to him and be like, yeah, sweetheart, so
this is what
guess what you did to me today. No, that your cousin that has been your friend from childhood, who understands you, who knows you, who will be able to say, I hear what you're saying, but actually you were wrong.
So the counselors are getting it wrong. Those are the
They're not getting it wrong, but I don't know if they practice what they preach themselves. Because as a human being, I found it very difficult. The thing is to be able to pick wisely who you're talking to.
Yes.
It matters a lot.
Yes.
Now, I said I was going to share this story. We started talking about the bit about living with in-laws, then we didn't quite go there, and that's also part of the third party thing.
Yes.
Now, there's this situation where this woman, her husband was an orphan. She had lost her dad. So when they got married, her mother came to live with them. Her mother was a Hausa, Fulani Muslim in a Christian home, kind of. So, you know, sometimes on those moments when there's so much friction between the man and the wife, the lady would go to her mother and, you know, like, I don't get it with this man. He has done this and this and this and this. I'm fed up. I've had it up to here. I'm leaving. I can't continue. And mother would calm her down. Oh, is that what happened? Yes, you need to talk to him. I can't handle this anymore. And mother would be like, oh, don't worry, don't worry. As soon as he comes back from work, I'll make sure I do something. You just take it off your mind. Do whatever it is you need to do. As soon as he comes back and he has his meal, I'll, you know, approach him. I'll talk to him about this thing. And that's exactly what would happen. You know, he'd come back from work, he'd get served his meal and everything. Then his mother-in-law would come crouching. You know, these Hausa women, these old women, they're very megidani. You know, she'll come bowing and trembling, you know, and she'll come and crouch at his foot. And be like, my daughter told me this thing, oh, she said you have a woman outside. I don't know where she got this kind of character. I never used to challenge my husband when I was married to him.
Wow.
Forgive her. She doesn't know what she's saying.
Wow.
And her daughter will be like, that is not. You are validating him for God. That was not the conversation we had. I said, talk to him. I didn't say go and what? But you know, in some reverse psychology kind of way, this woman was keeping that marriage together.
I kind of get what she did and why she did it.
Yes, it was a reverse psychology kind of thing. She was making him understand that, look, I will never be that person who will tell my daughter to pack up and leave the house.
So you do what you need to do.
And that marriage lasted 40-something years, with the woman threatening to leave at least once every year. You know, until she died, and then he died later on. But
wow.
This was a mother-in-law who was invested in keeping that marriage going together. And whatever happened, she would find a way to blame her daughter. Especially if the man was around.
So the marriage was not going to break on her watch, more or less.
So if he wasn't around, she'd be like, you know, men are like that. can I do? Your father was like this. And but the minute he called, I'm sorry, oh, I don't know
That's
what kind of daughter I gave birth to. I don't know which
Exactly.
school she went to. It wasn't me that gave her this kind of training. Oh. Please forgive her. She can never challenge you. It's your house.
Yeah, and that's why some of these marriages lasted so much
Yeah,
longer
you know,
than what
and,
we're
and
seeing
he'll be
now.
feeling really cool
Yeah.
about the whole thing, like his mother-in-law is on
He's
his
inside,
No, it's
exactly.
okay. I never take it to heart when she does things like that. I know.
And for that, he's going to do everything possible to make sure that the mother-in-law is not offended.
Yes.
Yes.
You know,
So, and that's by treating the wife right.
Yeah.
It was weird, but it worked.
Yeah.
You know, the marriage lasted. Nobody went anywhere. The kids are all well balanced and everything.
Well,
and
we're running out of time, but I would like Kevin, who is like the only man here, to just give the guys out there, the guys that watch conversations, to give them a bit of advice on, you know, anything we've talked about today.
Well, first, you know, we talked about how to manage your in-laws.
Yes.
Your in-laws. Understanding that your in-laws are part of your family will help you to have a sustainable, loving family. We can't run away from this. But yeah, I agree that some persons could be what they call from hell. Some mothers in-laws,
Overbearing.
yeah, it could be very overbearing because of probably some insecurity that they've had even in their marriages, and they brought that to play. It is in the place of the wife to understand that this is my husband's mother. Look for a way to treat her nice. And when you talk about third parties, these are people that, I call them medical interlopers. They come in every now and then. Sometimes we'll bring them in. There's the only best person you can confide in is your spouse. Frankly, until both of you becomes naked and unashamed, you can't talk to one another, you can't confide in one another. So I think the best approach to look at it is to be sure that you can go naked. Now, I agree that because of our backgrounds, different backgrounds, some people don't know how to manage secrets,
Yes,
in quotes.
information, yes.
And or maybe the least quarrel, what you confided in him, it brings it out to the
Oh,
open, and so next time you're withdrawn. Keep building, keep conversing, keep communicating. As you keep doing that, over time, the person will improve, because some of us are talkative and some are quite you know, not. So I think men can get the best of marriages if you are willing to. Be sure you're ready to learn, and the rest will be history. And I think it'll be fantastic for all of us.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin, for that comment. Our social media handles are open and available. Like, you know, we're reading every single message. They're available on the screen, and we would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts about living with in-laws or children as third parties, even in a marriage? My name is Nika. Thank you so much for joining us. And with me,
Chinwe.
bye-bye.
Kevin Fineface, have a blessed day.
Deva, Mom, stay blessed.
See you again soon here in the Conversation Room, right here on NTA.